places to study life on Earth, but the big problem is that we don't really understand how life on Earth sometimes works, and we don't know where it came from.
Exactly.
So on Earth, the oldest evidence of life are stromatolites, right? They are made with the very, very simple cell bacteria, and they making some patterns, morphological patterns, imprint in the rocks. So maybe we are looking for something similar. Make yourself a priority, and your private life, PhDs, it's part of our life, and we should do our best, but we should not forget about ourselves.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Academia Unplugged, a platform where real scholars get to tell their real stories, and a platform where we get to meet our real scholars that get to tell their real stories. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back, Unplugger. It's nice to have you back. And if you're a new subscriber, don't forget to, or if rather this is your first time seeing us, subscribe, and don't forget to click that like button and the notification bell so that you are notified every time we post new content. And go ahead and tell your friends to subscribe so that we grow together. Today on the platform, I'm actually quite excited.
It's great to be here.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure.
Yes, and this has been such a long time coming. And if you cannot tell by now, I have a very good friend of mine. Friend, colleague. Hi, Gabi.
Hi, Lisa.
How are you?
I'm really great, and it's a big pleasure to be here.
I am so happy you came. Actually, this has been a long time coming. You were supposed to come a long time ago, but I'm glad you finally made the time to be here, and I'm very, very grateful that you are here and that we get to tell your story.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm following the channel. It's an amazing platform, so happy to contribute.
Thank you. So, as I've said, today we have a very dear friend of mine, colleague, and I'm looking forward to a fruitful conversation and an exciting one. Before we start, I'm going to read out your bio according to what I found.
Let's see what you investigated out there.
I was stalking you, okay? And I was like, I have so many questions. Honestly speaking, I have so many questions. Okay. But maybe let's get into it and then the questions are going to come.
I'm ready for the impact.
Okay, cool. So maybe if you can keep your mic here so that, cool. That's fine. So yes, her name is Gabriela Ligeza. Is it okay if I call you Gabi throughout?
Sure.
Good.
That works.
Gabriela Ligeza, and listen to this. I mean, every single time, Gabi, I read someone's bio, I feel like people are so smart. Anyway, you are so smart. So I will start. So Gabriela Ligeza is an expert. Right?
Okay.
An expert in astronomy, astrophysics, and space science.
All of it. It's wrong.
I know you're just trying to be humble, but that's okay. So you have worked. So I'm just going to refer to you. Okay, good. So Gabriela has worked with biosignatures and close-up imagery and for extraterrestrial life in the Mars exploration project. Gabriela has also been head of marketing and sponsoring at ARIS.
Oh wow, that's quite not chronological, but I see this as a highlight of my of my career.
In ARIS, where they combine inspiration for space exploration using hands-on projects coupled together with personal development. Mm-hmm. And they encourage mostly students to take charge and define a vision for themselves and sort of develop leadership skills in space sciences, which is great. And Gabriela has also contributed to the Swiss science exploration of the close-up imager on the European Space Agency ExoMars 2022 rover mission. We'll get into that later. And you have also participated and was part of a group that won the scientific exploration of challenging planetary analog environments with a team of legged robots with the Space Sciences Resources Challenge in Luxembourg. Congratulations.
Thank you on behalf of the team.
Yes, great. And you also currently right now in the Physical Geography Department or Research Group at the University of Basel, where you planned out and organized a comprehensive 5-day course in space exploration that introduces students from all over Switzerland, actually all over Europe.
Yes, it was also open to European students. Yes,
all over Europe to planetary science, focusing on mission concepts and surface exploration of Mars with rovers based on the European Space Agency's ExoMars mission. And you also covered, a moon mission in the same course for lunar exploration, which is great. And you also, listen, this is still one woman that I'm still
I was describing. Like, how long this will go on and what else did you find?
Which is exactly my point. Like, it goes on. It doesn't stop here. You went, you were an LPI exploration science intern. This is all during your PhD, studying the lunar South Pole geology and the Artemis sampling targets. And this was at NASA.
Yes, it was in collaboration with NASA, yes.
I was telling David earlier on that you are the benchmark of my dreams. Like, this is where I'm hoping to go in the future. But we'll get into that as well. And you were also a project coordinator at Space Innovation and a technology analyst at Space for Impact, and also an intern at the European Space Agency. And I guess this was like between your bachelor and your master's.
No, that was before my PhD.
Before your PhD?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then we will get into that, because then I'm wondering, why did you do a PhD anyway?
That's a good question, yeah.
And so for your school, you are currently almost wrapping up your PhD in environmental sciences, specializing in space science, which if you haven't got that by now, then... And you have your master in earth sciences, and you specialized in mineralogy and geochemistry from the ETH. And you also did your student exchange at the University of Ottawa, where you specialized in geology and earth sciences.
Yep.
So you are a geologist by training.
Yes, exactly. So I had nothing to do with space for most of the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool.
And then you have your bachelor's in environmental science. How do I pronounce this university?
It's Welsh, it's long and it's confusing always to people. It's Aberystwyth. Yeah, Welsh language is not easy.
So this is in the UK?
Yes, it's in the UK.
Okay, great. So this completes you. I hope I did due diligence there.
No, it's great. I also remembered some things like the student organization projects that they are far, and we tend to forget when we move forward with our careers. Yeah. But yes, all of these amazing things happened. So thank you for reminding them to me today.
It's a pleasure, and I think you've done so well. If you ever forget that at any point in your life, you just always remember that you've done so well. Literally, your work speaks for you and the kind of person that you are. And congratulations for that.
Thank you, Lisa. It's really kind of you.
It's a pleasure. So to start, we're going to have icebreakers.
Yes, I'm ready.
So the icebreakers, I try to adapt them to like the theme of like your work.
Okay.
So it's gonna be just random. So before I used to say choose one and don't explain, but maybe a little bit of explanation would be nice as to why you chose that question. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, let's get it.
Okay, cool. So it's only 5 questions, not a lot.
Okay.
So question number 1: would you rather meet an alien or be an alien?
Ooh, that's That's a very good question. I would rather be an alien, I think.
And why?
I don't know. I would get some superpowers. Would help me living more exciting life on Earth. Who knows? Maybe I could teleport to different dimensions, different worlds. Life would never be boring.
Good. And maybe they use you for science. They come do experiments on you.
Exactly. I could collect some data on Earth and do some intergalactic science.
I love that. Okay, cool. And then question number 2. Would you rather have the power of invisibility or the power to travel at the speed of light?
Ooh. That's a good one. It's a tricky one because they are two very good. I think traveling with the speed of light. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's almost invisibility at some point.
That's correct. I'm curious where I could travel with that speed. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, cool. Third one. Would you rather freeze time or travel through time?
Like freeze time that we stay in this moment and nothing progress.
Yeah.
I would rather travel through time, of course. It's. I think it would be more interesting to see how world is changing, how far we go as the society, what we can achieve.
I actually also think like when I think about how fragile human life is and how it can just end at any time, it makes me so sad because I would love to know where we would be as like a civilization.
Yeah, to have some preview, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Crazy. Okay. Mars or moon?
I must say Mars because I'm doing PhD on Mars, so it's taking most of my mental capacity at this moment. Yeah. But I think Moon is the next step for us, for humans, and for the science as well. Yeah. And then Mars, scientifically. But my heart belongs to Mars.
Mars. Yeah. You're a Mars girl. Okay, that's it. But also thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for answering my crazy questions.
Yes, they gave me some
perspective.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and so from now, is there anything that you would like to add on to your bio or something that you'd like to say?
I think you summarized it quite well. I think you passed the message that I was doing earth sciences at the beginning. Mm-hmm. So I was trained as an earth scientist till the time I was doing my master's. Yeah. And then I took, I think, a year of break or maybe a year and a half. And I did all of these internships. Yeah. That helped me to transfer to the space science domain. Yeah. And and then I started PhD. Yeah. So it was not like I would say A to B path. It was more like detours, not detours, but a lot of different experiences. It was not a straight path from to PhD, I would say, in space sciences.
Yeah. And it's also just to say to you that it's very amazing to see a young woman doing such big things in like space science research. Mm-hmm. And I know winning, for example, the space challenge with your team, that was a major one because you competed against so many teams from other countries as well. Yes,
10 maybe at the beginning or 12. And as the project was progressing, of course, there were less and less teams.
Yeah, which is good. Congratulations on that again.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. So I want us to talk a little bit more about your research, not like in depth, but like just to, give an overview about what you do. And, so we know that you are doing, I know they don't. So you are doing space science research focusing on Mars, right?
Correct, yes.
In simple terms, to try and find traces of life. So correct me if I'm wrong, you are trying to find out if there has been life previously before on Mars.
Well, that's the overall goal of the mission itself. Mm-hmm. So my PhD is a part of the bigger project. Yeah. So indeed, it's based on the ExoMars, European mission, first rover mission to Mars that will send the rover.
Yeah.
And the overall goal for the mission is to answer if the life has ever existed on Mars.
Yeah.
And my project is centered around very specific domains, so testing a camera that will be on board of this rover and trying to increase the chances of finding those biosignatures. In my case, it's a morphological biosignature. We are also looking at, with other teams who are doing some spectroscopy to confirm if there was molecular life.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a part of the big project.
Yeah, yeah. And so your PhD, like you say, is just a segment of...
Exactly. It's a very narrow field, and it's a segment of the bigger mission.
And so is it possible in so much as you have come in your work, do you see possibilities of using close-up imagery to identify life?
Absolutely. So this is what we are trying to test here at the University of Basel with collaboration. We are collaborating with scientists from Neuchâtel, from Space Exploration Institute, who are PIs, principal investigators of this camera.
Yeah.
And we know that doing this close-up imagery has a crucial role during the mission because the images that will be returned will serve as the background information we should proceed with further mineralogical or spectroscopic analysis or not. So they are like the benchmark for the further decision making. Yeah. For the science part. That's why we want to maximize all the quality and data that comes from these images. Mm-hmm. And this is what we are doing. So I'm testing operations for this camera and seeing what are the best parameters for the camera, which lightning conditions, distances are the most optimal to detect these
I'm
morphological biosignatures.
I'm so sorry to cut you off. I realized I did. Because when you were speaking, in my head, I'm thinking, of course, there's Mars is different to Earth in so many ways. Like the atmospheric conditions are different, lightning is different, and they say Mars is the red planet.
Correct.
So I can imagine, does that mean that I don't know if I'm asking the right question also, but the specs of the camera, they have to be adapted to the conditions.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm not really dealing with the technical part. For that, we have people who build the camera. So I'm not responsible for. It's more like for the optimization of the science, so testing. But from what I know, of course, it's totally different technology we need to build. It has to be resistant also to the radiation, to dust. There is a lot of dust as well on Mars, so we don't want any dust to get into objective and mess up with our data. So definitely the teams of engineers, they had a great challenge to design such an instrument, and it's always like this with space missions. We have to think outside the box, and it's technologically, engineering-wise and technologically-wise a big challenge. Also, like with making the correct size, we are restricted by how much we can take away from the planet. So there are many things you have to consider. And it's the same with science. On Earth, we have access to great labs. We can repeat measurements. We can take as many pictures as we want. But when we are on Mars, there is no room for mistakes. If you are doing mistake, it costs you time. So you really want to make these decisions quickly, and they have to be accurate
as much as possible. Yes. Right. And I can imagine that can be challenging as someone who is trying to set up those parameters here on Earth, because you know that the room for error is not really that, like the margin is not really that big.
Exactly. Yes.
So you have to be as precise as possible.
Absolutely.
That's diabolical. That's crazy.
Yes, and it's so many unknowns as well. Like, imagine here you can go to the field, investigate outcrop, walk a bit before you do the sampling. It's not really like this with Mars missions. They are very slow. The rover is moving extremely slow. You analyze something you see, and you have to make the best hypothesis, not really knowing what is further. Of course, we have some data from remote sensing, so we know the terrain, although it's never really 100% accurate what we can see, and there is like the scale issue that, right, you also work with remote sensing, so you know sometimes it's just impossible to see everything, and we still are surprised by what we find. And we find these little pieces of information, and we have to make a scientific story based on it.
And how comparable is it? Have you found places on Earth that are comparable to what you found, like on Mars, say maybe biosignatures?
I mean, it's a big topic, and like our community is always looking for analog places to study life on Earth, but the big problem is that we don't really understand how life on Earth sometimes works, and we don't know where it came from.
Exactly.
We know it survives in like a lot of extreme conditions, like hydrothermal vents, or in the ocean where the conditions are extremely hostile. Or we have still some life on desert, or like subcas, where I'm also working as part of my PhD, right? The last part, I'm also looking for how life forms in extreme environments on Earth. But of course, we can learn something and try to find the best correlation, because we also believe that, you know, Mars is a terrestrial planet, so the evolution of our both planets
could be similar.
Could be very similar. And from the geology, we know there was period of the Mars history when this life could evolve, and it was, we as humans, the same way as on Earth.
Right, because that was going to be my next question, to say we're still somehow confused about life on Earth.
Absolutely.
And how it formed, and the jump to say, okay, let's go do it on Mars with the minimum amount of instrument and you know, expertise, or I mean, there's people that have dedicated their lives to studying life on Mars, but shouldn't it be that we understand us first before we, you know, transition onto Mars?
I think one doesn't exclude the other.
Right.
What we do, we also might learn a lot from Mars about the Earth, because you know, Mars is the failed planet. It's at some point it just didn't evolve as Earth. So whatever we find, we also learn about our own planet. So of course, like investing power, intellectual power is it's needed. But indeed, like, we don't know not just about life, but about so many things on Earth. Earth is the most complex life laboratory in the solar system, I would say. I mean, I think mostly everyone would agree that we have so many processes, like hydrological cycle, and also like with humans, like how we interact with the planet, that this basically, studying our planet itself is I would say, the most difficult. It's paradoxically, it's the most difficult system to understand, because there are so many factors.
So many factors, and they all somewhat influence each other to a certain extent.
Absolutely. They are not separate. It's they are all united in a way.
And as a space scientist, you wouldn't do research on something that you don't believe in. So you do believe that there was life on Mars once upon a time?
I mean, yes, it's not just I believe, there is like scientific evidence.
Right.
I mean, evidence. There was a time period in Mars history where there was water that we know from our planet, that it's like a requirement for life. And it was time when, it was believed that Mars had hydrological system, so it's a very good bet that life was there. Yes.
That's.
But we don't know what form of life. Definitely, it was microscopic life. We are not searching for any aliens. At least not on Mars, I would say. We would know by now.
We would definitely know by now.
But some microscopic life.
I think that's very important to point out, that we are not talking about human life or aliens. Like animals, but like at a microscopic level, at least as much as science has found.
Exactly, absolutely. So it would be something we hope to find the rock record, probably. So on Earth, the oldest evidence of life are stromatolites, right? They are made with the very, very simple cell bacteria. And they making some patterns, morphological patterns, imprint in the rocks. So maybe we are looking for something similar.
And you recently went to Qatar to find similar stromatolite environments.
So in Qatar, we found two regions. One of them was modern, so life organisms that they live in SAPCA, highly evaporating systems. And they create some patterns with the gypsum or with the soil that they interact with. But we also found the equivalent of the fossilized. So we know what happens when they are dead. There is no more biological activity, but what kind of imprint they leave. And this is something more that we would expect to find on Mars, of course.
And so these patterns are easily identifiable from imaging.
Yes, they are able to be captured, especially like with the camera like we are using. The big question is, and what we are trying to understand is how many processes are forming in biotic versus abiotic way. Because morphology itself is a good indicator that something can be formed by the microorganisms, but it's just one of the criteria you need to look at. And we are really doing this research. That is the last part of my PhD, where we're trying to understand what is actually made by organism and what is not. What will help us, like the pattern recognition for Earth, but also for the space missions. Yes.
Okay. I know we're going a lot into your research.
Yes, it's I'm like,
you're defending your thesis.
Yes, I'm preparing, I guess.
I'm sorry. Okay, final set of questions on this part of this conversation. So I know that the camera that will be mounted on the rover to Mars will be the CLUPI camera, and it's from Switzerland.
Yes, it's a Swiss contribution to European mission. So it's a great achievement, scientific achievement for the country.
And for you as well. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Although I'm not sure if I'll be part of the mission.
Because you'll be done by then.
I think we might clarify for the audience that the mission was supposed to be launched 2021 or 21.
22 actually, yes.
Yes. And it is postponed to 2028. So I hope that by this time I will be done with my PhD. So I probably will not be directly involved, maybe in another project if there are some opportunities coming out of the mission. But definitely I'm happy to contribute to the research before this camera goes.
I don't know why anyone wouldn't want you on their team to contribute to such a great wealth of science. And for me, at least from my perspective, I see it as you actively being part of this mission that would potentially help us realize where we come from, and I think that's really good.
That was the motivation to join the program. So at least if I put any little puzzle into this, I think that's a success.
Yes, that's a very good success, and congratulations on that, Gabby.
Let's see.
That's honestly, it's really great. And so now my question would be, I read your bio and I understand your research. And I think from what I've seen, you have accomplished so much. Maybe not so much as other people, but we're not comparing. And you are well on your path to, being a great scientist. My first question would be, why a PhD? Because already by the time you were done with your master, you had your master's in geochemistry. You could have, in mineralogy, you could have worked at a mine and get your diamonds, girl.
That was my initial idea, actually. So I didn't tell you, so it's a good guess.
Exactly. I was like, Gabriela has a vision. You did your master's in mineralogy because, every girl deserves some diamonds or some minerals here and there. And so why did you consider doing a PhD?
Okay, so I transferred to the space domain after this mineralogy and geochemistry major.
Yeah.
And I did internship at the European Space Agency, which really opened my eyes for what is possible. That, like you only think you can do something with your degree, and then you see how you can actually apply it to different domains. This is what happened to me. They were looking for mineralogists and geochemists to work with, for the space training team in Germany. Yeah. On the geological databases and so on. Yeah. And it was a really great experience. Yeah. And then I came back to Switzerland, where I also worked at previously Swiss Space Center. Yeah. And I realized that I really wanted to be part of these big space missions. Yeah. And for that, and to work for space agencies. And all of these inspiring people I met who put me on this path, they were all scientists with a PhD. Yeah. So basically doing PhD was, going for a PhD was entering a new world as a research scientist that could help me to contribute to space missions, because it's really rare that you are just master. Yeah. You have just masters and you work on these space missions. Yeah. Yeah. If you are engineer, it's more common. Yeah. But for the science, for the PIs of space missions, they all are PhDs, researchers. Yeah. So they inspired me to join.
To join that.
Exactly,
and
yes.
I think that's also a valid reason to join, because I can imagine you are like at JPL and you're surrounded by like people that have PhDs and, although sometimes I feel like in such an environment, of course it's a research institution, but maybe it's more corporate than academic.
Yes, absolutely.
So you would have to find or bridge the gap between academics and like corporate academic.
Yes, but there are different ways. To work on space missions, you can also be a professor, get grant to investigate certain aspects of the mission. Yeah. So it's not only like the space agencies, the path. You can also do it at universities, like many people do. Yeah. They're just, I would say, two different paths that one can take. Yeah. But basically doing, I think, PhDs just opens more doors for you, right? Possible doors, and I think that's what is the advantage of it. Yeah, because you are still like you don't have to define yourself, and you can explore which way to take. Yeah. With extra experience. Yeah, that's true. And so, because I also know that you did so many internships between the time that you finished your master and right now, when you're about to conclude your PhD, one which you did at JPL in collaboration with... Not JPL.
with NASA.
Yes, that was Lunar and Planetary Institute with collaboration with NASA Johnson Space Center.
Yes, sorry, I
it's
okay. I don't know why JPL...
Yes, you are really like, with this JPL is on your mind, I see.
Hire me.
Exactly. They are also looking for remote sensing scientists.
Exactly.
So I think you
shoot my shot.
Exactly.
So how important is it to have an internship or to do an internship during your PhD? Is it required?
So it was definitely not a requirement. Yeah. I'm lucky to be in the understanding group, where my professors, when I told them about the idea of doing this internship, they were absolutely super supportive. Yeah. And they supported my application. And then when I got the offer, they were very... as I said, supporting, and they let me go basically to do this other research because it's really not part of my PhD. Yes. It was slightly different. It was lunar science. It was not Mars, so it was a different field. Yeah. And for me, internships are the highlight, actually. Before PhD and during the PhD, the highlight of my studies, because you are getting exposed to different people, different projects. You acquire different skill sets. Yeah. You expand your network, which is very important as well, because you meet people from all around the world and you exchange ideas, you come up with fresh mind, and it's very stimulating. And I think I would recommend to everyone to just do internship. If you have a nice professor and he agrees, that's perfect. If not, I think it's even worth to take extra time to get this experience. It's something, because PhD is still learning. It's our learning process, and it's our learning opportunity. So we should definitely get as many skills as possible. Don't stay in the lab for 4 years without interacting with people. Go meet them, get challenged, because people will have different minds, different scientific ideas. Get challenged, see that maybe there is not just one way to do things.
And I think when you are, let's say, I don't want to use the word stuck, but because of a lack of a better term, I will use it. When you are stuck in the same sort of department for 4 years without really going to see what other people are doing, firstly, I think you get wrapped up in your project, your PhD, and you think you're doing the right thing. Maybe you are. But it's until you see what other people are doing and you're like, oh my word, maybe my tiny drop in the ocean is
very tiny.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I think this is what you also realize in space science, that, it's very diverse.
It's very diverse, yes.
And so is the internship paid? Or is it sponsored?
It was paid. The one I did, you are asking about the one during my PhD, right?
In general.
So, I think all of them were paid. For me, it's also a requirement to do it. Although, yes, the one that was in Houston last year, there was a stipend. So they gave us money to live there, accommodation. It was very well organized. So I didn't have to worry about how will I fund it.
Which is also, I think, another good, set of opportunities. It's one thing to get the internship. It's another thing to find where you're going to be staying. Let's say if the internship is unpaid during your PhD because cost of living.
Yes, absolutely. Then you have way more worries, like how to apply for funding and so on. Absolutely.
So I guess you would agree with me to say money is important during...
Yes, and I think, people have different motivation to do unpaid internships, right? If you can afford it, and if you think it's great investment, I would say, why not? Although I feel like it's our work, and people should, like companies or whoever is hosting should compensate, because we are also adults.
Working.
So, we cannot ask our parents for money when we are 30 years old, especially. So I would say, But, as you know yourself, you're applying for a lot of grants successfully. There is always way, usually, when you get prestigious internship, or if you have to go for conference, there is always some funding, especially in Switzerland. We are very fortunate that we can ask. Yes, absolutely.
For situations like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, you're right.
It's just like extra hassle to apply for it, but...
I understand. And this also brings me to my next sort of question, to say, Gabby, truly, I think you're well established and your work speaks for you. Your CV speaks for you. At least all your accomplishments speak for you before you even present yourself. So in situations where you... Maybe let me say, have you felt stuck during your PhD? Let's say you don't know how to continue with, let's say, your line of thought. And I can assume there's not so many Mars specialists out there that you can go to and say, hey, I'm stuck here. I need help with identifying parameters for my biosignatures or something like that. And in situations where you feel stuck, how do you overcome it, be it academically or emotionally or, during this time of your PhD?
I mean, I think getting stuck is very common for every PhD student. At some point, you lose the bigger picture, like because our research is so narrow, and you start questioning why are you doing things, or it's quite common, especially when you get stuck. Because, you know, like we are now talking about what I did, and I'm like, oh, that's true, but I don't think about it on a daily basis, right? Like, it's actually nice that you remind me like today, and I feel like motivated again. But real life, it's unfortunately hard work and individual work. Yeah. And it's very easy to get stuck when you are not self-disciplined, or when you have worse days, you are the only person who needs to motivate yourself. Yeah. So of course I do feel stuck, especially I would say writing. I think I'm not bad with writing these manuscripts, but it's not something I enjoy. I'm more like practical person. So I usually, when I do experiments, I like if I have a problem, I ask experts or I Google things. I'm doing all of this research. I'm asking people from New Shuttle, from help. Like my second co-supervisor was always available for me to discuss, so I would always ask him questions if I would be stuck. So with the practical part, it's like asking people questions. With the writing part, it's the more difficult one because nobody will help you. It's just you. If you are stuck, you know, you have to push yourself. So I usually try to make small milestones. I'm not anymore super optimistic that I will write 5 pages in one day. Sometimes it happens, but when it doesn't happen, my goal is to write a paragraph and then do other research on the side or read something and come back when I really have this creative force in me, I guess, or no ADHD that I can actually sit and focus because I think, I don't know what is the most difficult part for you, but I just cannot really focus, like switch off totally.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the same. Like sometimes having to focus and really get to the point of what I'm trying to say. I get that a lot. Like I think I write a lot. It's the narrowing down for me that's the problem to say, because I'm trying to link this thing and this thing where in reality there wouldn't be much of a link, and trying to, you know, find ways around. So that for me is quite challenging during the writing process. But I understand what you mean. And so, have you ever been rejected in terms of publications? Or
I mean, so far what I published is like co-authored, so there was no rejections. They were like just, of course, comments to resubmit. I'm like writing my 3 manuscripts right now, very close to submission.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Let's see what's going to happen. Of course, I'm ready for being rejected. I think that's also the part.
I think it's you're right. It's part of.
So I mean, of course, I'm doing everything in my best powers to make this work the best quality I can. But I'm aware that one of the possibility will be rejection. Probably it's one of the real possibility, as we know from experience. So I think it's part of the process, to be honest.
Okay, so then maybe this wouldn't apply to you right now, because I have a difficult time dealing with the rejection. I've been rejected. Recently, I was rejected for a manuscript, and I took it so hard. I was like, what do these people think they are? I know what I'm writing. You can't come tell me that this is not good enough. So I think this is also one of the things that, you know, the hurdles that we have to jump over when we are, you know, PhDs or academics in this in this industry. And so, have you ever had to deal with imposter syndrome?
To be honest, I don't really feel imposter syndrome.
Intense. Wait.
But I want to clarify why.
You are not the first person who has said this on this platform, because it blows my mind that people don't feel imposter syndrome. But Go ahead.
So, like, I think, you know, I'm not the kind of person who is comparing to other people.
Right.
I always feel like we are having individual paths and we are doing our best. And also, like, it's up to you what you want to do with your life. So I don't really feel like, you know, there is somebody who is doing greater science. And I know that at this point, I'm not supposed to be an expert, right?
Yeah.
Like PhD is a learning process. I acknowledge things I don't know. And that's why I'm doing PhD, because I want to know.
Yeah.
So I feel like there is nothing to be ashamed. It's a time to make mistakes and learn from them.
Yeah.
That's why I don't feel insecure about it. But when I acknowledge there are people who know so much more than me, and of course it's normal.
Yeah.
And when I meet all of these people who are doing PhDs and they publishing in great journals, or they having great path, they are actually inspiring me. So instead of feeling like less than them, I feel like I want to be like them.
To get there.
And exactly. So for me, when I meet people, let's say, who I know they are better, then they act like a source of inspiration rather than I come back home and I'm thinking like, why I am like not like them.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's also a great way of looking at it. Because for me, I'm always just like, oh my word, maybe I don't even deserve to be here. Like, what am I doing here?
But I think this is normal, and many people think this way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, great. I think I'm taking count. Like, this is person number 2 who doesn't feel imposter syndrome, and great to know about it. And have you, let's say, felt lonely during your PhD? Because loneliness is such a real thing. And I think I said before that we glamorize PhDs sometimes, especially to like our friends, or like, especially when you're Polish and you don't live in Poland, you're doing your PhD here in Switzerland. So you've had to come up with a new sort of support system or support structure. You're not always home. You don't always get the opportunity to go home at some point. So I can imagine loneliness is a real thing. How do you navigate that?
Yes, honestly, like with the loneliness, moving to another country, I don't feel that much more anymore because it's been a while since I moved out. And it's not just Switzerland, so I got used to it. Yeah. But I agree that the loneliest I ever felt was during my PhD. Yeah. It's because, as we said, it's such an individual process. Like if you have a job, full-time job, usually you interact with some people. You know, here it's you and your supervisors who you cannot really talk to every day. So it's like when you write, you are with your own thoughts, and sometimes you are so busy that you don't have time at all to go and meet people, right? So I felt like there were like days when I felt first time, and I think like I'm the person who is more like extroverted and I always have people around, but I felt lonely during my PhD because of the work I had to do and the structure of how PhD works. Yeah. But how do I deal with it? I push myself to go out after work, go out with meeting friends, having some hobbies, seeing people, to not be stuck in this hole of, I'm alone with my research and it's so hard. And, you know, you really have to push yourself and also prioritize your mental health and not work till like 10 p.m. Like, I mean, it's great that you do, but you have to really make yourself a priority, and your private life. I mean, PhDs, it's part of our life, and we should do our best, but we should not forget about ourselves at the beginning. So it's making time for life-work balance. It's helpful how to.
And also loneliness in terms of, because in our research group, we're not all doing the same thing.
Absolutely, yes, right.
So how you cannot just come to my office and be like, hey, Lisa, you know, today I saw some biosignatures that look this shape. And I can assume that can be lonely as well. Like you don't have someone to actively talk about your research.
Yes, exactly. And that depends also, right? Some people, they have groups that they're working on one topic and they can interact. It's not our case, as you just mentioned. And for me, that was something like I had to get used to it. Because like I'm also the first PhD student in the field of space science in this group. So this is the biggest challenge, that, as you said, there is no postdoc here at university who did something. And I can I read in your paper, maybe like this, there is not much room to discuss. So, I have the supervisor in Neuchâtel who is helping me with all of the discussions as well. But, he's not here, so I cannot utilize him every day. But you just have to Google, or you have to connect with other researchers who are working on similar projects at different universities. I think this is when conferences are very helpful.
Yes.
Because you really see what people are doing and what they found out.
And have a different sort of perspective.
Yes, but I think that would be quite good. Like something I wish I had would be like the bigger group.
Yeah. And so you've said that navigating this loneliness, you have to like network and put yourself out there and, speak to your supervisors and get their input into your work. And that leads me to asking what makes a great supervisor in your opinion. Because, we have supervisors that others are hands-on, others are, they let you take the lead, and others, there's different types of supervision styles. And as a PhD, what do you think makes a great supervisor?
This is a very good question. I never really thought about it before, so I try to think about it now. I think the best supervisor is the one who wants to utilize your potential and sees your PhD also. It's not just like you deliver something for me, but also like cares about the personal growth of that person. So cares about person doing great science, but also letting that person go, for example, for internships and creating those opportunities. Also, I feel we learn so much from our supervisors. Once I was told that we become them. Like you should wisely choose your supervisor because you most likely be the same scientist, right? So I think the role of the supervisor is also to put you in this scientific world because they have connections, they are well established, and usually they create networking opportunities for you, and you are being introduced by your supervisor to this big world of science. And I think, and from the scientific point is the supervisor that is an expert. I think that's probably the best when you go and you can get direct feedback on your work and directions. Maybe like he or she says you should not go there because, from my experience. So someone who has time and a lot of knowledge to time to share this knowledge with you as well, right?
Yeah, I can see that as well. 2 last questions.
Okay.
One, what does progress look like when you're doing a PhD for you?
So I feel like, it's not straight path, right? It's a lot of ups and downs. And I realized that at some point when I had these downs moment that they are also progress in the end. Because you learn a lot from something you did wrong or not really the way you imagined. And then with this knowledge, you go back up with totally new perspective. So this is for me progress, to really acknowledge these dark moments and to really put them as progress. It's not just like I did this and this worked. That's the progress, but also there are so many ways that so many things that went wrong that contributed to the overall success. So I would say yes, progress is of course going further, writing your manuscripts as well, right? This is what academia wants from us, and I think it's fair that we put our research out there. So having this written down, our thoughts, something we can share with people, that's the progress.
And also as a person that has successfully time and time again been accepted to these prestigious internships and competitions, you've won competitions, how do you, if you can, let's say in 3 ways, give us tips on how to apply to a successful program? what would you say?
I think what always wins is be yourself.
Right.
And really think what are your strengths, what is go through your CV and see what you learned that you can apply further, be proud of what you did and really sell yourself. Say the truth, basically, what you did. And show how your unique set of skills will contribute to the project. Don't try to fit in the project the way to make up that you are the perfect candidate, right? That you know everything, that you know coding, you know everything, basically spectroscopy, you are expert of everything. Really know who you are and come there with this set of skills and say how this particular expertise will be necessary for this particular project. And I think that's the key to success. Also do a lot of research, I think, and network. I always say network and as much as you can because you will hear about opportunities from other people. They might remember you. Even if you fail, if you get rejected, people might remember you. So you always go and show your interest out there. People sometimes, many projects, I would not even apply because people would reach out to me to join the projects because I was putting myself constantly out there without really... I would say without vision of starting new projects. But... I was always curious and interested, and then people knew what I was doing. And
the fact that you show interest goes a long way.
Be proactive about it. It's not just looking for internships online, but also in the circle, right?
Yeah, in the circle, yes, that's true. And finally, so after your PhD, you're almost done.
Yes. It doesn't feel like it, but it's almost the end. Yes.
It's almost the end. And so are you thinking industry? Are you thinking postdoc? Where if you don't mind telling?
Yes. And, I don't know 100%. And actually, I started PhD to know, to clarify myself, what I want to do. And I must tell you, it didn't really help.
Oh, no.
I mean, it's not, I feel like it's... I feel like I would see myself in industry because I feel like more oriented, goal-oriented person. So I keep this option as an open option. But also I would definitely give a shot if I would find a really nice postdoc, not any postdoc. It's not my priority. So, but it's it's kind of relief when you don't have this dream because you have less pressure.
I keep saying this. I said I should have been happy with my high school because the more I dream bigger, the more stress I bring to myself.
Of course.
Yeah, and so now because we almost finished. It's what is the next step? How do I go from here to a postdoc or to industry or something? So I completely get you 100%.
Yes. So I think it's actually I'm happy I don't have such a dream. At least I can end up maybe in industry. For sure, my ideal world would be to, of course, continue space missions, space science. It's something I love and I hope that I can still do it. There will be still opportunity one way or another. Yes, and postdoc also would be... I'm taking some proactive steps at the moment, so maybe if the right opportunity comes and I happen to get it, I will do it. Yeah,
great. And as a final question, if you were not in academia, what would you be doing right now?
Right now? Okay, right now. I don't know. I feel like I could do something with entrepreneurship as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Maybe have my own startup or something in this way.
Yeah, that's pretty.
But I don't know how I would get my startup with geology, what patent I would develop. But maybe work for the startup in more fast-paced environment.
Yeah.
But as I said, I'm happy with space. But maybe there will be more startups in the future about space, and then it will be perfect.
Maybe you start your own startup in space.
Maybe, who knows?
Who knows? Let's see how this goes. hopefully by the time you come back, because I want you to come back and speak to us even more and maybe give like some tips on how to write a motivational letter.
Oh, that'd be great.
Or
yes.
something, I don't know. And of course, you're welcome to come back. And it was such a pleasure speaking to you today. And thank you for your time. Thank you for coming. And I don't know, is there anything that you want to say, anything you want to add on before we close?
No, thank you, Lisa, very much for inviting me and creating this super friendly atmosphere. It's a really great setup. I'm really impressed by all the work you are doing, guys, here. It's very much needed.
Yeah.
And I hope that more and more people will embark on the PhD journey. It's a great journey, I think. It's stressful, sometimes not that rewarding, but I think in the end, investing in yourself, it's always good decision, and you will never, none of us will ever regret doing this, even if it's hard.
I think so too. I think there's not a lot of space to have regrets within the space that we are in.
Absolutely. Yes.
And congratulations again on all your achievements. And
you're very kind to me today. I'm like, I'm trying to accept all of this kindness.
Oh, come on.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm also very proud of you and wishing you all the best for the last stretch as well.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed today's segment. Comment down below what you think, and comment down below if you want Gabby to come back, and let us know what you want us to talk about in the future episodes. And so from us, Academia Unplugged, bye.
Bye.